Hi, everyone. Ed Bixby here from the Global Green Burial Alliance, and this is Spotlight Now. Today, here with Lauren Robie, co-founder of Hope Eternal Gardens, a state-licensed natural burial cemetery in Punta Gorda, Florida. With her husband, a licensed landscape architect, Chris Alonso, they create native memorial forests and meadows that invite families to take part. Hope began as a promise to Chris's mother and has become a shared work of healing and placemaking. Each burial supports the planting of over 20 acres of forest, often by families choosing to participate in planting and growing habitat with community and the future park that they can enjoy together. Lauren's work centers the human experience, the chance to honor, to participate, and to leave something living behind. So welcome, Lauren.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Ed.
You're very welcome. We're really happy to have you here today. And why don't we get started by learning a little bit more about what inspired Hope Eternal Gardens creation and how that came to be?
Oh, absolutely. So it's kind of a funny story. I remember reading in, I think it was American Cemetery and Cremation magazine, you either inherit into this business or you kind of fall into it. And I would say we fell into it. My mother-in-law was, she had a chronic illness, which basically we describe it as ALS, but slower. And so her husband, who was her primary caregiver, he passed away very suddenly. And basically, Chris and I were in this position where we needed to either move to help her or move forward her toward us. And there was just no way we were going to take her out of her environment. So we ended up moving to Punta Gorda. Her mother before her wanted a natural burial, and the only one available at that time was Glendale Memorial Preserve up in the Panhandle, and she just wasn't able to get all the way up there. And so she knew that it's something that really resonated with her. She is or was a lifetime gardener. She always had gardens wherever she moved. She was always an artist, and she just saw, and she was also in real estate. So she was a real estate broker. And so she understood she was like, there has to be more than just me who would be interested in something like this. And she asked us one day, she was like, well, would you guys make a natural burial cemetery with me? And we, of course, were like, sure, why not? And, we had really no idea the full extent of the journey. Chris and I both have Chris is a landscape architect. I've studied design, so we both understand, how site design and site development works. But this was like a different type of animal, So basically, she passed away just a couple months after we had kind of all sat down and made it official that this is what we were doing. And it has truly been a labor of love. Like we had to look for the property first. We went through. We knew we wanted to be state licensed, so we had to go through the licensing process. And in the middle of that is COVID. We've been hit by a couple of major hurricanes. We had a new baby born. Like there was just all of these. Life still happens even when you're doing something like this. So it's just absolutely been a passion project for us. There's many times when we could have quit, and we were like, no, we just keep on going. We'll push it as far as we can make it, and we're here now. And it's been just an incredible journey.
Well, I'll tell you, it can be that way. You're very similar to many people within our movement. You didn't choose the profession; it kind of chose you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really kind of special that Chris's mother was the inspiration and helped lead you guys to where you're at today. And for our audience, if you could paint a little picture of what your preserve would look like if they were to come and visit today and experience it.
Absolutely. So what the property is, it's 42 acres. There's 12 acres of wetlands, but it was formerly used as a horse ranch and for cattle pasture. So basically the landscape is mostly meadow. So what we are doing right now is we are planting what we call microforests using, it's a proven method called the Miyawaki method, and I can spell that out for you. People are like, what? But it's this proven forestation method that's pretty powerful. It's been used to plant over 4 million trees worldwide. And these forests become self-sustaining within 3 to 5 years. So really 3 to 5 years of maintenance, and then it's just nature taking over. So if you were to come today, you will see a lot of meadow, and you will see little pockets of forest that families have already started planting together. And that's a huge part of, I guess, the experience with us, is we really encourage families to come in and plant with us. We're dealing with very small plant material, so it's, you know, small enough that we've had like a 2-year-old participate in a planting. We've had someone with a walker participate. You know, someone would dig the hole for her, and then they would place it in the hole together. But it's this experience where the family really bonds with the final resting place, and it creates a just joy-filled memory of that day. And the families get periodic, I do ground, you know, I walk the grounds all the time. So I'll take if I see, like just today, there was a wildflower blooming by one of the forests. So I took a picture and I sent it to the family. And, you know, it's this way of like continuing the connection with this beautiful thing that they're helping to create. Like literally, they're getting their hands in the soil and able to participate in something. And we found that it becomes like a less sterile or strange experience for them. Just like, you know, you associate hospitals with people getting sick or getting hurt. People, you know, they rightfully, they think of death when they think of cemeteries. And so for us, it's like, well, what if it's not just about death, but the circle of life? So it's the context of death within that, but then there's also the life piece to it. So I hope that that's kind of my ground.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's a beautiful concept. It's a beautiful description. So now listening to you, I understand that, you know, you're creating this like micro forest with the Miyawaki method. Did I say it correctly? Miyawaki?
It's called, it's Miyawaki, but we'll put it in the description.
Almost like Milwaukee. Milwaukee.
Milwaukee,
Okay.
Miyawaki,
Okay.
yes, yes.
And
He
so,
was a Japanese botanist, so he's from Japan.
yes, I understand. So I mean, it gives us it's really an interesting concept. And I guess with that being said, so when the family does participate,
Mhm.
you know, are they able to select plant species, or are they part of the selection process? And if so, how many plants are planted within like a burial site itself? How does that all work?
Right. So we'll just call it the microforest planting. So like I mentioned, my husband Chris is a landscape architect, and so landscape architects it's a licensed profession. It requires either schooling or apprenticeship, and then you have to take an exam and ongoing continuing education. But basically, he had to study the different habitats specific to Southwest Florida and find a habitat that made sense at the elevation that we were at, the soil types that we have. And from there, he had to figure out like, okay, what are the canopy species, subcanopy species? What habitat are we recreating? And so for us, it's the hydric and mesic hammocks that are specific to where we are. So those have their own specific plant palette. So there's a specific type of plants and then percentage of those plants. It gets very technical, the actual plant picking. But what we do with the families is for the I guess starter package, like if a family were to come and buy, we call it the what is it? You get the natural burial plot, and then you would get a couple plots next to that where you would do your planting. I think there's about depending on the size of the plants that are available, it's about like 50 trees that you get to plant in that small space. So families are really, it's not like one single memorial tree that has its own lifespan. You're planting a system, and that system is regenerative. So when you plant that, it's going to create little baby plants, and then those will grow up as things die off. And again, it's just life cycles. So yes, you're planting quite a few plants. We do have what are called the signature forest estates. Now those are our like premium option, and those start at like 900 square feet. And those we actually do allow there's a lot more collaboration with the plants. So for example, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law are buried out there. They were our first permanent residents out at Hope. And what we did was, so we did the design for the Milwaukee forest, but then we also included native edible plants that she was already growing in her garden. So we brought cuttings or transplanted plants directly from our garden, or we've now taken over her garden, and incorporated that into the forest. So not only is it like our family, like my husband, Chris and I and our two children planting this thing together, this living thing, it's also that the plants themselves have their own history and deep emotional connection. And so it just really, I don't know, it's like very profound. Like we're still kind of dissecting all the different layers and things happening within that. But that's something that another family could do, is we would work with them to figure out, okay, if it makes sense, like if they have the like the gardening skills to understand how to transplant or how to do a cutting, we can kind of talk them through that. And if not, we work with 6 different local native plant nurseries. We can source a plant like a red mulberry, for example, or there's several different edible plants that you can use. But anyway, we can source those plants from a nursery, and then that way, at least there's the like the species itself is really what is it, emotionally significant, if that makes sense. But yes,
No,
that's our premium. That's our premium option.
no, absolutely. It's really, to be honest with you, you guys have created something very distinctly unique. I mean, I haven't heard of anyone yet creating something quite like it. And really, I really appreciate the fact that you've done it. I think it really checks all the boxes. I think if you really want to be part of an ecosystem and then have the families participate in the creation of that, that's really a unique concept that you both have come up with. So congratulations on that. I really, I don't, I hope we see many more of them, but you've got something so unique. I'm sure you're probably the only person that I'm aware of doing something similar to what, you're describing at the moment. So very cool.
I appreciate you saying that. Well, I also, before we jump on, so we came to find out about you through your Steelman Town documentary. And I remember that was like the first or second month of our research. And so learning from you and your experience, and even, your background in real estate, and seeing how you kind of thought about the natural burial cemetery, that was like a pivotal part of our journey. So I just wanted to thank you for that, and all the work that you've done since, just before we continue on.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that I'm able to inspire some people along the way. But I tell you, I think every success story, let's say, which that's what you are, presents its own unique challenges, and you guys have really come up with something that I find fascinating. I think it's really something very, very interesting, and I love to learn more and hopefully visit someday and encourage our listeners, to come and maybe say hello and check out what you're doing down there, because it sounds well worth the trip. And so if I was coming to you as a consumer for a service, what would I expect? Give us like a mind's eye of what I would expect for that day when I would lay my loved one to rest.
Well, I guess the first thing I would say is, that day starts a days in advance, where we start coordinating with either the funeral director or whoever the point of contact is. And before you even arrive, you would receive a like what to expect email or, update, just so that everybody's on the same page. We know what phone numbers to call in case you miss the turnoff or whatever it is. We're trying our best to hold the family's hands as much as we can. And then for a service, we have so it obviously depends on which option you choose, but if you choose the option where friends and family are attending, we provide a tent. We have like a comfort station with Kleenex, bug spray, because we're in Florida. It is plant-based bug spray. We found like the one that worked the best for us. But anyway, we provide bug spray, sunscreen, tissues. And one of the things that we like to, I guess, start the ceremony off with is it's like a wildflower arrangement. So what we do is we go around and we collect, like we have Spanish moss hanging from the trees, and that's a really great like base, I guess, for the arrangement. And then usually our kids will help. We'll go around and we'll find wildflowers that are growing on the property, and then we have it in a basket, and the family is able, as they arrive, they can all come in and add either one or as many as they feel appropriate to this little arrangement. And then that arrangement after the ceremony is done can be placed on top of the gravesite. But it's our, my husband and I have a background in art. And so a lot of what interested me before I even knew cemetery was going to be on my bingo card. Was I loved, I loved understanding how someone who isn't necessarily a quote unquote capital A artist would understand an art piece. And I love the idea of people just coming as they are and having just a pure experience, and then they can kind of digest it after the fact. So that's kind of the approach that I'm taking to this, is like, okay, how can we create these like participatory gestures? And they don't have to be these huge grandiose gestures. It could be, something as simple as getting wildflowers and putting them on top of the gravesite. But how does that emotionally impact a family? What does it mean to start something with an intention? How can families, like we have something that we do, it's called Plant a Wish. So what you could do is on the day of a forest planting day, the family can come in, and we have, all of the supplies that they need. And you write down a hope or a dream or a prayer or whatever's on your heart that day, and you plant it under the forest that you're planting that day. And so we really love bringing this intentionality to every single kind of any interaction we have with the family. We like to be able to bring that in there, even if they're not thinking that many steps ahead. We've experienced it enough times now that I know that these experiences are powerful, and they will kind of sit with people long after they've left, or long after someone's passed away. So yeah.
No, absolutely. I love it because, the sentiment that's involved, and really the memories that are created, because I tell people often that this is a memorable occasion. And of course, you don't mean memorable because you want someone to pass away, but celebrating a life that was lived, and you're honoring them in a way that is, unique, but also very personal. So I love what you're saying, because it's often the simplest things that are most touching, to people, and bring a lot of value. So I know you wanted to share some slides. I don't want to miss out on that. You had something that you wanted to show us.
I just wanted to give a visual of what I'm talking about, because when I say forest, that conjures up all sorts of different things in your head. So it's just one little before and after.
Sure.
That I'll share here. I guess I can go in full screen mode. Full screen mode. Okay. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
So on the far left where it says day of planting, that was done in January. And then showing 5 months of growth in the middle. So you can already see it's filling out. And then we are, again, my husband's incredible, and because he's a landscape architect, we can create in-house renderings using our software. So this is a rendering that he did of what the forest is projected to look like in about 20 years. And this one in particular is very special. This was the first family that went through the entire process with us. The daughter decided that she wanted to pre-plan, and her mom had already made plans at another cemetery up in New York where her husband was cremated, and she already had a space and everything picked out. But her mom really fell in love with what we were doing. And so she was there to help plant the forest, and we presented this rendering to them, which was a surprise. We just, we're always kind of testing out different ways that we can, like I said, how can we help the family visualize, or how can we again hold their hands through this process. And so we showed her this rendering, and she got really emotional about it, because she said, I'm not going to be here to see that, but you've given me this like little sneak peek, and like I know my daughter will be alive God willing, will be alive to see it look like the image on the right. And so that's been, it's been a really powerful tool, the visualization that we can do and share with the families. But yes, this family, the mother unexpectedly passed away just a couple months after we planted the plants, but she was just, her daughter would message me and say, my mom's telling another person about her cemetery plot again. And it was just, she was just so excited about it. It was just so funny to think like that you can get excited about a cemetery plot, but she just loved the experience. And it was just incredible because when she did pass away, we did the service, there was no question. It wasn't like, oh, she would have loved it. It's like, no, she did love it because she wouldn't stop talking about it. So it was just very special. And that was our first family to really go through the planting, somebody passing, and then you know, honoring them afterward and kind of getting all those feelings. So I kind of, what I like to share is, you know, I feel like I'm getting like I'm benefiting the most out of this because I get to meet these incredible people who come to us, and I get to, you know, almost befriend them and kind of really get to know them, especially through the planting and updates and everything. And so I just feel really fortunate to be a part of their like life story, you know, just in this little capacity. So yeah.
No, absolutely. It's absolutely beautiful. And I love the vision. And you're 100% correct for all the viewers here today who appreciate the work that's being done by the movement, or people who are would-be entrepreneurs know this, that, you know, the intimacy, you're sharing this journey with a family, you know, and that's a real privilege and honor. And it truly is. Every one of these is memorable. And wow, to create a space like that, I can only imagine how thrilled to death, literally, that she was, knowing that when she would die, that this would be her final resting place. So great work, Lauren. Great work that you guys are doing. And, you know, I understand you have a master future park plan. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that and where you envision, you know, Hope Eternal Gardens in, let's say, 10 to 20 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of our initial research, and actually just to go back to our origin story, is after she passed away, we actually had to really do this. Like when we really had to go look for property, we really had to start, you know, when it was time, it was go time. I was like, I don't want to do this. What did I get myself into? And so when I was writing our business plan, which is part of our submission for our state license, it was basically like a long letter to myself of how I could see this being a good idea. Like how is it that we could really make this work in a way that draws together the stuff that me and my husband really care about, but also just like makes sense as part of a cemetery. And so I had a couple of cemeteries before, like when I was in school, that were part of my life past, that really emotionally impacted me. And one of them, so Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge, that was a site visit when I started a master's program in landscape architecture. I ended up stepping away from it, but that was our first place to go. And it was a cemetery. And it was because it was an arboretum and they have this educational programming, and that really stuck with me. And so I researched, I was like, well, what if we look at these historic cemeteries that have been around but are still operational, that are still serving their community and having like an active role. So we looked at Mount Auburn, we looked at like Oakland Cemetery in Atlanta. There's another, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but in Cincinnati, there's wonderful ones that they just have like arts programming, they have exhibitions, there's just like so much life in these cemeteries. Hollywood Forever was another one we looked at with their, they do like film screenings and they do concerts. And so it really kind of made me realize like, oh, this is kind of like a park. And my husband and I actually met at Miami-Dade County Parks Department at the coffee machine because that's, because we love coffee. But it just tied into this history of like us being very connected to parks and understanding that parks were America's first green spaces. People picnicked in cemeteries, they gardened in cemeteries. And so our master plan from the very beginning part of the business plan, part of all the research that we did, we realized we needed to make sure that our zoning and our uses were approved, right? That's a very important part of land use, right?
Yeah.
So we went in front of the Charlotte County Board of Zoning Appeals, and we said we want an artist in residence space. We want to be able to do outdoor exhibitions. We want to have a plant nursery, because if we're going to be doing gardening, it'd be great for us to have our own plants available. We also have plans to have 3 cottages built on the site. We are about a 30-minute drive from town. And so the idea is, like, what if families could go to these cottages at either for a celebration of life or a funeral service, or just a retreat to get out into the middle of the country, right? And give them a space where they can just be together. Because often when there's a funeral or a death, people are, they're coming in from all over the country, all over the world, and they're staying, and they're scattered. They're in hotels, they're at someone's house, another person's house. And so it was this idea of, like, well, what if we could give them a space where they could all be together and just either laugh, cry, do whatever they need to do, just be together. So we have the cottages, artist in residence, and studio space. So all of these things are part of our master plan, and that was important for us to have those approvals from the very beginning, because we learned from these other cemeteries that these programming pieces are a great way to keep the cemetery alive, and also people's memories alive by extension, because they've supported that mission. But how do we plan for that from day one instead of retrofitting the space for this programming? So our master plan has these, we call them like the sacred burial forests, where these forests, the microforests, are planted. But then we have, in the spaces in between, we have the community spaces, and those don't have any burial sites within them. So the hope was that you could come and picnic, or come to a lecture or live music performance, and still feel like you were being respectful to those buried there. We really wanted to balance that activity with the still recognizing it as a sacred place where someone might be visiting a loved one.
Well, I tell you, it's so forward thinking, and a lot of people don't know what you just explained, about how, the garden cemeteries of the Victorian age really truly are the birth of the American park system.
Mm-hmm.
And the history and the recreational and the honor and the respect and the dignity that these places bring is immense. So it's good to see something very old starting to come back. You guys had the forward thinking to say that you want to create a space similar to those like Mount Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that too many modern cemeterians are thinking that way, but I believe they should be. So I think that's, again, another compliment to you guys, that you're seeing the inner beauty, you're seeing the overall picture, and many people don't, but they will by experiencing, properties like yours. So I do, again, very good work. Thank you for sharing your vision.
Yeah.
The Global Green Burial Alliance thanks you, Lauren. Viewers, you can learn more about visiting hopeeternalgardens.com. And looking forward to hearing more in the future for what you guys do. It's great work.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting us on here.
You're very welcome. All right, everyone. See you at the next Spotlight Now.